So today we're going to have a very interesting discussion with Priyanka on transformational leadership. Okay, really understanding what are the qualities that we want to imbibe, right? And we're going to look at it. We thought it would be very interesting to look at it via our own legends, legends of the world, mythological, just a little bit, and how stories and movies inspire us, because that's something we also use and build in our therapy. So hi Priyanka, welcome.
Thank you so much, ma'am.
I was going to say thank you. So what's in this space? What's in this space as we just open it up to a leader, a transformational leader? Maybe we could start off with one of our legends, right? Like let's probably start with Mahabharata. Like how, and the reason we're also doing this is because these are all energies in psychology. We call it archetypal energies, which are inherent in each of us, right? So we all have the potential, and developing that is how we can use these characters, use these personas to instill what we want in life. Yeah. So let's start. So Priyanka, what's coming to you? Who would you want to start with?
I think one of the things that is coming to me right now are some of the leaders who I have worked with.
Right.
And the ones who've been extremely supportive, the ones who have nourished and been like emotionally available and wanted me to grow as a person, when I was under them. So I'm thinking of these things. And at the same time, I think since you brought in some of the legends, I'm also thinking of their qualities, like growing up watching some of these amazing folk tales and some of these amazing shows. I mean, all those qualities are coming to my mind.
Right. Yeah. I think that's beautiful.
Yeah.
So I'll bring in this example of this very young badminton player, okay? And that will give the viewers, right, like to connect. It'll help them connect, and then we can tease it out further. So this was a very young boy, and young player, badminton player, and I remember once he said, "I want to be like you."
Okay.
And he's like, you're so calm, you're so composed, and this was sometime like at not very beginning of my career, but like I was still in my early stages, and I actually told him, I said, but I'm not like this all the time, right? And I felt that was important. Now, as I'm training in, I'm in my advanced training with Jungian, we've been in the field for a while. I also look at, what does calmness mean to you? Like, so what would it be, right? So it's basically when there's something that we identify, right? It's basically something which is there in me, which I want to grow. So that's what we say is, it's in the shadow. So shadow is just something in your unconscious.
Yeah.
But it's not just necessarily the bad. It's also some things that are very good, which we've not accepted.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then this guy would wear this khada, okay? He wore this khada, and then he said, a certain player, elite athlete wears this. And there I actually asked him, I said, okay, what does this mean to you? So is this one of, like, it could actually become one of his anchors? Is it something which gives you strength? So rather than dismissing off like, oh, it's just very superficial, and then also building, okay, what does this athlete actually have, and which is probably dormant in me, which I can grow. Right. So I thought that was a good example.
It is amazing, because what you're saying is like, every person has a potential, and they really have to tap into that particular potential. Some of them are hidden.
Right.
And, the more you embrace your shadow,
exactly,
it emerges.
Beautiful. You put it, I think that was very, very beautifully put. I always say it's like, even when we work with an athlete, it's like a young sapling, no? It's nurturing that, right? And I think it's how you put it is just so beautiful, Priyanka. I think, we can hold this.
Yeah.
And I was recently reading, I actually happened to see a video also by Mr. Raghu Anant Narayan. So he actually builds a lot of, he's an IIT Madras person himself. So he actually really builds in legends and uses it for leadership training.
That's
And
really
he's
interesting.
it's beautiful. So there's this one talk for the audience. It's called Mahabharata as a Mirror. Please do actually look at it. We will also provide it in the reference link. How to use these energies, which are archetypal again, right? When we mean archetype, it means that it's in this space, it's inherent. So he says how to understand the quality of each. And there's this one book in particular he's written, which is Arjuna as a leader.
Okay.
So so let's look at Arjuna. What do you grown up with legends of him? And
Yeah. I'm only thinking of courage, strength, and warrior.
warrior spirit.
Yeah, warrior spirit.
Yeah.
His sharpness, his focus, and his concentration to make sure he works for his brothers and his family. So I think those are the qualities which are actually emerging for me.
Yeah. As you're talking, Priyanka, I remember, I'm going to keep tying it up. There was this, there's this beautiful image when he goes into the war, right? And Krishna also being your inner God, inner guide as well. And how he displayed all the typical signs of stress, because he was like, this is, my people. And he asks the right questions as to, what is this war about?
Yeah.
Why am I actually participating in this war? And that's where it actually becomes a dharma. It's like, what is my duty here to my brothers, my family, my people? And it's the right war or right action, right? And I think that's what it is with sport, no? We want to see our icons, we want to see our players win in the right way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Yeah. So I think that's a really good point to start on. I was also actually remembering one of these, the athlete I was talking of. So she actually had a major head injury, and she missed one of the major tournaments as well. And who was extremely spiritual. Okay, so it's you also tap in, right? You tap in with those, and then I said, okay, so I did this exercise of, it's just coming to me. I hadn't even thought about it. So I'm like, this is your circle. So I actually started with that. So when you go out of it, you've gone out of your zone or like your core. And I asked her, who can give you or what can give you strength? And I think she said Krishna. So that's how I'm like, okay, brilliant. So then you also hold that energy of Krishna in this circle. And then I went with, now if you are Arjuna, right? You are not an XYZ athlete. How would you look at it? What would be the advice? And it was we actually did it. It was online. But like the energy was so potent, and when she would get in that circle, that field which held the higher energy, it's like a leader, no? Your inner leader, your inner guide, whatever the term it is that resonates with you, holding that. Right?
Yeah.
So I think what we're looking to build, right, are qualities. And like you said, courage.
Yeah.
But also the other end of courage was when he got, when he got stranded. And that's when you pull up that inner God, inner guide, because he also calls him Saka. He actually calls, Krishna Saka, because it's your inner guide, like a good friend. And I think that's what a leader's role is, no? Like, or even our role for that matter. We can be friendly, but we're not your friend. And I think, when a leadership group has to have those qualities first in themselves, right? Like, you can't, like, I remember, I'm going to give another example on the opposite side, spectrum. This was when I was with one of the spaces, and there was a camp going on, national camp. It was a very young group of female athletes. The coach, we don't know why, but his coaching style was quite, for lack of a better word, aggressive. Um, it was very like the athletes were shaken. And I remember doing the mental toughness scale, Priyanka. All their scores was tipping low. All their scores, okay? And it was just so sad. And I remember this was quite early in my career as well. I said, and so when I was working, I said, what's happening, guys? And they said, ma'am, just come. Just come and watch us. Like, I couldn't stay in that place for more than 15 minutes. Like, just, they make a mistake, he would really lose his temper. He would almost to the point of like abusive, like, the assistant coach was really scared. And this team went on to actually lose, one of the qualifiers. And I don't think it was, the physical, but they were just not in that space. So really, I think he or she needs to work, right?
Yeah.
So
I think you're bringing such an important point, like, how open are coaches. Coaches are all, when you're talking about leaders, they're also followers.
yeah.
Because that's an important quality to have, knowing when to lead, knowing when to follow, knowing when to trust. Like, for example, of course, there are coaches. I've worked with some of the amazing coaches.
Yeah.
They would trust their support staff so much. They knew that, okay, you are the expert in the field, you know better.
Right.
So tell me, what am I supposed to do? So
Right.
I think having that beautiful quality to listen and learn from an expert is an important quality of a leader.
Yeah.
If I
Definitely.
act like, I know it all, then it becomes difficult.
Yeah.
So as you were talking about, this coach who was very aggressive, I was also thinking of another coach, wherein he knew he was aggressive, he was aware of it.
That's the difference.
Yeah. And then he knew that was having an impact on the players. So basically, he said that I would want feedback from all my players.
Oh, wow.
So I know that they will not give it to me, but as a psychologist, you collect the feedback and tell me what is it I need to change. And that was amazingly transformative, because he really made the changes in terms of the feedback he received.
Yeah. Exactly what you're saying, right? Because I think it's very vital, and that's the reflection. See, we're all going to have some things which work well, but also some things in us which is probably actually pulling down another, probably pulling down the group you're working, the team you're working. And I think as you're talking, I remember one of the hockey teams I worked with, and I'm taking the name also because it's a positive example. This coach was so inclusive. Like, he would say, even whether it's a GTMT expert, I want all of us to be there. And I remember there was this one athlete in particular who, there was a little bit of action in her foot which was going wrong. But that was, and I heard it, and I built it when we were doing our imagery. So how, as a team, when you're included, he's also saying you're important. Right? So, and how the coach opens up to something will also have such an impact on every aspect. Right? So that's beautiful, Priyanka. Shall we look at some of the leaders, some of the books, movies?
Yeah, definitely.
I want to start. Can I start? I've been I happened to, I chanced upon Jodha Akbar, the movie, recently. And it also got me thinking. I'm like, it's a Mughal emperor who marries a Rajput Hindu princess, but how they come together and really brought a change for the good in society. It also talks about how initially, of course, they had their issues, but that coming together and then going beyond religion to what is a good leader. And she was, influencing him, but very subtly, and knowing how can I influence and what would be right. And like you said, he listening to who I need to listen to, right? Because I think that's one of the very essential qualities of a leader, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, totally. I mean, I am thinking of, some of the books I have read. I'm also thinking of, some of the movies I have watched as well. Like, for example, there is a goal. Like, for example, let's talk about Lagan,
One
right?
of our favorites.
Yeah.
I love the movie too.
Like how the whole, as a team, there is a goal to achieve. Although that goal has come out of a lot of suffering, people are inspired to go out there and achieve something so that it benefits the whole society. And of course, they're taking risks. They don't know the spot. There is an attitude to learn, and
eagerness, and
yeah, and how everybody comes in and does their role and responsibility, which is an essential quality for the team, for that matter.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I love the example you brought, because I think it brings in team building.
Yeah.
And I think Amir Khan did a really wonderful job in that, because what he's really portraying, right, is the qualities of a leader.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
First of all, taking that risk, like you said, because we don't know if this is possible.
Yeah, and it's very uncertain. The price that you will pay can be extremely high.
Yeah. But it's also essential they had to take it, no?
Yeah,
I mean, and I mean, it's I think it's, we can tease out like for hours together, but I think it's beautiful because it also involved conflict and how he worked with it, and also knowing, okay, the English princess was that lady, even taking her help to learn. And I think that is a very essential quality, like you said, as to knowing what are my strengths, and also knowing where do I need to get more support.
Absolutely.
Not being this, okay, what, I'm the coach. Sometimes we get it, no? Like it's like, I remember reading once in the news that, a particular player, high profile player, asked for a psychologist, and I don't know who it was, but he said, you can talk to me.
Okay.
So it wasn't a coach, it was just, someone in, I think, the admin, and I remember it became a big issue, because, and I felt so bad reading it. I'm like, here's a elite athlete, an Indian player asking, and people don't understand. So I think it's essential to go, this is it. I may know a little bit of physiotherapy, does not mean I become a physiotherapist.
Absolutely.
So I don't go around telling athletes who are injured just because I've had an injury or just because I know a little. I think that's a very essential
and
quality.
I think as psychologists, we also need to know that we are only psychologists, like the way you're saying, right? We can't get into the coaching part of it and start training athletes and thinking we are better than coaches. That is not at all going to be helpful.
Yeah, and that's where role clarity comes in, right? Your role, it's very, very important. I think that's a brilliant movie to look at. and I was also recently watching some scene on what's that? No, before he's done this movie on the Pogat sisters, no? Which is it?
Dangal.
Dangal. I was seeing Amir Khan. And how, again, the father becomes a coach. And I think that was also a very difficult role, no? To instill. But because he had Kusti in himself. And then once they come to a stage to then also hand them over. I feel like it's there's your science, but there's also the art. There's a subtlety which is needed, and also these are young girls. So knowing whom to groom how becomes very, very essential, right?
Correct. And one thing that is common across even the movies that we are talking about is the fact that these people have a vision. The leaders have a vision, and they know how to move forward even when things are really not working in their favor. They know what to do to go out there and achieve their goals. Which is an important quality in a transformation leader. Like I remember this one particular coach, he knew whether the competition may or may not happen. It was very uncertain, but he still empowered the whole team to, train and prepare.
The mindset.
He really said that, what if we go?
Yeah, exactly. And that preparation is important, because if you're switched off and then you're going, suddenly to go jump in becomes difficult. So you'd rather be prepared, and then of course then there's going to be a little disappointment if you don't. But it's the opposite is going to be quite dangerous, like not being prepared.
Absolutely. And there is no need to feel sad that we didn't work for it.
Yeah.
So, and that is something that he really instilled in players, saying that, we have to be motivated, we need to do it. Even though the circumstances were very uncertain and things looked like the competition may not even happen, but he said that what if it does? We really have to work for it. So
I think what you brought in reminds me of Abhinav Bindra's quote during Olympics, which I spoke about in one of my sections. But I think it's very vital. He said, because it just kept getting postponed. He said, how you handle uncertainty is going to determine how you're going to perform at Tokyo. And that's really the key, like just working with the entire changes, working with like the protocols, the bio bubble. Like I remember being in panels and like players saying, I remember one, it was a panel, and one of the badminton players said, he said, we would sync up our individual routines with other players and do it so that at least there's some sense of connect. And I thought that was a brilliant way where, players came together in different
definitely
and worked it through. I think that's it's amazing.
Like you're saying, I think with transformational leaders, they're also people, irrespective of the circumstances, they literally empower and keep taking the team forward.
Yeah, exactly. I remember one of the leagues, right? And again during COVID it was uncertainty, but the coach was like, Chaitanya, they're all going to be so pumped up because energy is
as a team, as a unit, it's good.
And also because they've been sitting with it, right? Like we're just going to see this spurt of action, and he was bang on. And also we kept building that energy. We were also very, very, what you're saying is also keeping your communication clear. Like I saw, because I worked across the cricketers, right? It wasn't just with one league. I do work with cricketers, and I saw that that leagues who kept their athletes at least in touch, or at least with keeping them like, see, this is how much we know, were a lot more settled than those going, we don't know what's happening, are we going, are we not going, when's it happen? It's a very difficult space.
I think again it brings down to the process, right? What are you going to focus on? There are so many uncertainties, like that happens even with the teams when they're performing. Like you'll hear audience screaming, shouting, some of them are booing you, but what do you want to listen to? What are you going to focus on? Right? So it comes down to that. As a team, who are you taking feedback from? So
precisely, who are you taking feedback from, and also how are you channeling your energy? Everyone cannot be a Hussein Bolt who knows how to take the energy.
Absolutely.
And also, what do you do when you don't have the crowd? Like, I think one of the biggest challenges for, though in the league stages, when IPL was happening without crowd, that, it's just different, right? It's different. It's totally different.
Absolutely. Everybody's, but at the same time, even with social media, right? Like there's so much, everybody wants to give you an advice in terms of how to do it, what not to do, etc., etc. I think somewhere the boundaries have to be drawn by the players in terms of who will they take the feedback from again.
I remember I was working with one of the teams, and they'd gone through a pretty bad patch, and we were leading into one of the major tournaments, and I it's still so heartbreaking because you open the paper and it's just so negative. But and then that's where the coach was like, now, and in the sessions we're building a new story. What do we want? And I think it's so essential to understand what they're going through, because see, they're working for a camp, you're in a camp, your energy is focused. I think it's very important, even as audiences, yes, we have our disappointment, but what are we feeding the players with, right? Like we're doing really well in Asian Games, and it's wonderful. I think it's also very essential to see that there's gone a lot of work, a lot of support which has gone in, and also to support even when maybe things don't always go well.
I
think
absolutely.
that's one of the essential qualities of a leader, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, for example, how will you pump your players up? How are you going to motivate them and encourage them, especially to focus on the next match and the next game? Because you
Yeah.
can't keep thinking about, okay, we've lost. You can't go with that energy saying that, what, we are going to lose again.
Yeah, you're right.
Mm.
I remember one of the teams, we had this thing of like, let's say, after match, just catch up or it.
Mm-hmm.
And there was this rule that we won't talk about the match unless, player wants to talk. And the support staff team is just the same whether you win or you lose.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. And what you're saying, I think it's I remember also really as a group sometimes talking about your best performance, or like it's very essential to change that, no, when the chips are down, because when the chips are going great, it's fine, but I think a leader really comes in going, okay, how do I shift the focus of my group without just lecturing?
Yeah.
So like maybe sharing, or like some fun activities where like Priyanka introduces me, or like especially about something that you don't know, and we shift that energy, right? I think that's very, very important.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I also wonder, like, being a leader, they also need to process, have this space where you can also clear off, right?
Yeah. I think
It's
some of the
just so
things
much.
I've seen some of the leaders do is they know that, my work timing is from this time to this time as a coach.
Yeah.
After that, I also have other areas of my life. Like, for example, I have my interests. So weekend, it's time for me. So I'm not going to be, training around that time. I'm going to spend time with my family, my children. I have, so many friends that I would like to meet up with.
Yeah.
Because I think being a leader doesn't mean that you forget all the other areas which are essential, which will fuel that energy for you.
Exactly.
So I think being a leader also requires some of them to be very playful. Yeah.
Yeah. Playful, so that you bring in that play and creative energy, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And it's also so much of a mirror, no, because how you are is going to either help in a supportive growth mindset environment, or you know if you're not, then that's also going to impact the team.
Yeah.
So I think also self reflection and self work becomes paramount, no, for a leader, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Otherwise, leaders can actually struggle through the whole situation. They will not know. I mean, if they really struggle with interpersonal skills, they can get very defensive when somebody is voicing something out. I think some of the
Yes.
transformational leaders are those who have the empathy to listen to, other stories, and at the same time not treat them as victims.
Yeah. And I think you're right, and also this is something which you build in, no, like it's someone, I don't know if someone's born a leader, but I definitely feel it's something which we can groom as individuals. And I think what we're discussing is also, if you can start looking as to what are the qualities you like in a particular person, a particular leader, a particular personality or a legend, and rather than just mimicking it, like sometimes we hear athletes say, oh, I want to be like X. Look at, okay, how can I be like this? Right? And what about this person actually draws me, and how can I build these qualities? So I think that would be a good way to tie this up, this section. And to, what are the leaders, what are the qualities, who are the personas, which are the movies, which are the books that you're drawn to. I think if you can start pondering on that and then look at it as to, okay, who am I? And what do I bring in, which is aiding and which is not, right? And I think my favorite with is like, what do I want my story to really be? It's like Lagan. I think if we can tie it up, it's like, I remember him saying, I wanted male children because so that they can get India gold. And then when the kids, the young girls are fighting, and then he says, oh, I was so wrong. they just have it in their blood. And how does it matter? We want, goal for India or performance for India, whether that's a male or female. I thought that was a brilliant way to, and then how he goes about grooming.
Absolutely. I am thinking of this one person that I really worked under. Before I joined work, I used to think that leaders have to be very strict, they have to be very authoritarian.
Right.
But then when I worked with this one particular person, she was so empathetic. And I really got so much freedom. Like there was so much trust, and she would give me responsibility, and I would help her out. And I did not feel like she was my leader per se.
Right.
It was so easy. Then it changed me that you can be a leader like this also.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A beautiful quality that you saw. It's really about what she brought out in you.
Yeah. And it did not. I felt so safe.
Yeah. And as you're talking, Priyanka, I know we said we conclude, but I think another very essential quality is excellence. Right? Like, I mean, I'm going to bring in my favorite, Rahul Dravid, who, and I think it's also been my personal philosophy. Like, I've been very influenced, for my families, rather, yes, have a vision, and to be your best and to whatever goals you have. But also, it's not just about, becoming something, but it's about really bettering yourself. Focus on excellence and results will follow. Right? And that's something I tell youngsters who want to get into the field. And I've heard a lot of coaches say that. I remember this, there was this session for the parents, and the coaches were also there, and and the coach, in particular, the head coach came and told me, Chaitanya, can you tell them that, listen, every match, it's not about your kid winning, because sometimes we're working on something and we're focusing on that process there, because then they're going to go excel in this area. So don't always look at it as, an outcome. And I really feel that was a brilliant advice given.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. This was great. So I hope you all enjoyed the discussion, and thank you, Priyanka. This was very insightful.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Now we have a video by Miss Ayan Merchant, whose master thesis was on transformational leadership. And this is a very good way to bring this section to a conclusion.
Leadership plays an important role in sports, influencing team dynamics, performance, and overall success. We watch or see a good team win with a coach or captain hailed as a hero. In recent years, transformational leadership has emerged as particularly influential in sports administration and coaching. Transformational leadership focuses on the impact it has on its followers. They gain trust, respect, and admiration from their followers. Similarly, they inspire and motivate their followers, or in this case, their athletes, to achieve their full potential while nurturing an environment of improvement and excellence. Transformational leaders inspire a collective vision. A prime example for this is MS Dhoni and Gary Kirsten. When captaining and coaching the Indian cricket team for the 2011 Cricket World Cup, they created a shared vision of winning the World Cup and started a multi-year plan to unite the team towards a common goal. They cultivated the team unity and commitment required to achieve their goal. Transformational leaders motivate their athletes. Coaches and team captains use their charisma, enthusiasm, and passion to inspire athletes to give their best efforts. Kapil Dev as a captain went beyond the external motivators like rewards and punishments, but focused on internal motivation by making his team believe in their abilities and tasks. This resulted in higher levels of dedication and effort from athletes. Transformation leaders develop resilience. This is very evident from the 1983 World Cup. When India was losing against Zimbabwe, Kapil Dev viewed the setback as opportunities rather than overwhelming obstacles and scored a record-breaking 175 not out. This resilience and ability to handle adversity and, more importantly, bounce back can be a game changer in difficult situations. Transformational leaders empower athletes and focus on individual growth. Good coaches and team captains trust their players to make decisions on field and encourage them to take ownership of their roles. One of the prime examples of this is Pep Guardiola, who recently led his team to a second treble. He empowered his players, which boosted their confidence and developed leadership skills amongst team members, which can be invaluable in high pressure situations. Coaches and teams who practice good leadership are committed to athletes' personal growth and development. And so they provide the constructive feedback, set challenging goals, and help the athletes improve their skills on and off the field. Transformational leaders always create a positive environment. A positive environment is vital in sports, and coaches and team captains play a crucial role in building strong bonds. They create an uplifting team culture based on trust and solidarity through their support and encouragement. The ability to connect individually with each team member or athlete can mean the difference between winning and losing. In sports, transformational leadership stands out as a powerful force for success. It can create an environment where individuals and teams can thrive. Their impact extends beyond the playing field, shaping athletes into well rounded individuals capable of achieving greatness in sports and life.